So we'll take a quick little tour around Reaper. I set this up so it would look a lot like Audacity, because I know some people had used Audacity. There are certain things Audacity does, there are certain things Audition does, there are certain things Pro Tools does that Reaper doesn't do out of the box. So I did a little bit of configuration and I tried to make this work in a simple way and also a way that would work a lot like other programs that exist. So there will be kind of a beginner level, an intermediate, and an advanced level for the tips here. And all you really need to get by is the beginner stuff. But it is pretty important, so I will go over all the basics in a thorough way. Okay, so this gray area here is called the timeline. This measures the time across our program. When you hit play up here, or when you press the space bar, they do the same thing, you'll see the arrow or the green line here move across.
The following program does not necessarily represent the views of the staff or management at 100.9 Canoe FM. The following program does not...
And then if we move this, so if we click on this and move it over, and then we hit play, then there's a little space there, there's a little silence.
The following program...
before the thing starts. So from left to right, that's time moving across whenever you hit play. The podcast stinger plays after, so it's coming a little bit after the initial thing here. So we've got a bunch of different tracks here. So on the left we've got host, and you can see that it's kind of a dark gray line that comes across from host. Then we've got guest 1 and a lighter gray line. We've got guest 2, that dark gray line again, and that one has some audio in it. robdisclaimer.wave there. Then we've got music 1, a track, and a gray area across, music 2. So we've got a way to organize different clips of audio across different tracks that have different names. And you might have also noticed host, guest 1 and 2 have the green FX button lit up, and music 1 and 2 don't. They don't have anything on there. So the idea here is that on your host tracks, on your guest tracks, on your voice tracks, you've got a little bit of effects. So you've got maybe a little bit of reverb or of EQ or of compression, something that'll kind of help even out your voice, something that'll help clean up any little like bumps against the mic or anything that you might get from potentially home recording or recording in a not ideal environment if you're interviewing somebody on the road. So those are on these tracks to help clean up the voice. Then the music, it doesn't have any effects on it because whatever music you're going to be putting in the show, if you have a theme song or if you have some finished audio that someone else has mixed and mastered, you just want to present it as it is, so we throw those on tracks that don't have any effects on them. I just called them music because that's what I think you'll probably be putting on there most of the time. So if you have an interview, you'll be putting yourself on there. You know, you can rename, you can double click in there, and I could call this Rob if I wanted to. I could call it late for dinner. But let's just leave it at host for now. So you can rename them by double-clicking, writing in there. To the left of that is a red button. This is your record enable button. So for the most part, we're not going to worry about this right now because we've got the radio station available, which has a lot of nice mixers, nice microphones. If you're able to get in there, then you can use their equipment. If you're working at home, then maybe you're recording at home and maybe you want to be, doing this recording. If so, that is where you enable the record. But I think for most people, they're used to working at the station and they just need this to do a little bit of editing now and again. So however you want to use this, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can use Reaper. So that's the record enable button if you want to record audio, if you have any microphones that are plugged in. Next to there, like I said, you can double click to rename the track. Next to that is the volume. So if you click and hold down, you'll see volume 0 dB. If I move my mouse up while I'm holding it down, you'll see it goes +6, +7, +10. If I pull it down, you can see it goes -2, -5, -9. So that will turn the volume up and down. Double clicking it will set it back to 0. So that helps you turn any clips that are on this track up or down. And then you can see the same thing is on every track there. Next to that, we've got this little section in here. That's the audio meter. So these are the things that I was talking about before that you're used to seeing. Or if we hit play, we can see this bouncing on this track here. So watch this meter.
The following program does not necessarily represent the views.
So that's the thing you're used to seeing with the green line that bounces up and down. If it turns red, it's too loud. But in the green is all good. So that is where you can see for each track how much, how loud it is. If anything is too loud, you can turn it down. If anything is too quiet, you can turn it up. And you've got the same thing on the master track up here. You can see the combined level of everything together. If everything together is too loud or too quiet, you can adjust it. But I would advise against adjusting this master level, and we'll see why later. But next to the meters here, we've got the mute and the solo buttons. So mute will turn off all the clips in this track. So for instance, hitting play, as we know, will play this disclaimer.
The following program does not necessarily...
However, if I hit mute, click that button, we no longer hear that. Solo, on the other hand, will play just this track and nothing else. So because there's nothing else playing right now, it's obvious it's going to sound exactly the same.
The following program does not...
But if we solo just this track, then hit play, we're not going to hear that even though it's there because we're soloing just this track. And you can see it's darkened out all the other tracks, and then just this one is left lit normally. So anytime you want to unsolo, you can click that. You've also got, if you've accidentally got something soloed and you forgot, you've got all these handy little, oh no, something soloed markers. So that's more for editing. An example could be if you have two people talking at the same time and there's some background noise that's on one side. If you were recording a Zoom conversation and somebody drops their mug in the middle of it, you could use the mute or the solo buttons to figure out whose track it was on and see if you could cut out just that portion to remove that, disruptive sound. Next, we've got the effects buttons. So we're not really going to worry too much. If you want to take a look at what the actual effects are, you can click there. So it's a little something to remove the bass and clear up a little bit of the high end, which I found a lot of the Zoom interviews needed a bit of. It's got a little bit of compression and a little bit of de-essing. So it's all the same kind of stuff that you would see on those channel strips that you use at the station. So that's the basics of the tracks, the timeline, the master effects, and this, you can...
The following program does not...
You can click different parts of your track to start at different times.
Visit canoefm.com for...
If you wanted to listen to the same, like say I wanted to listen to the transition between the disclaimer and the podcast stinger, I could click somewhere around the end of this disclaimer and then just listen to the transition between the two and just hit play.
Canoe FM. Brought to you by...
And then stop and then listen to it again.
Canoe FM. Canoe FM. Canoe FM.
And maybe I want to move it back a little, maybe I want to move it up a little earlier, and you want to listen to that same part again and again to make sure that you've got that transition or that edit, whatever it is, exactly right. In that case, you're just pressing space. You're just going to click where you want it to start from, hit space, and when it passes the part you want to listen to, hit space again, and it'll get back to that same location. However, when you're editing an interview, say, you might want to hit play to have it start playing and then stop exactly where you hear maybe somebody make a mistake or maybe somebody coughs or clears their throat, and you want to cut just that one section out. So you want to be able to stop exactly there. So in that case, you're going to use a different command. You can use, if you're using play and stop up here like this.
Canoe FM. Canoe FM.
That's the equivalent of pressing spacebar for both things. If you want to press spacebar to play and then stop right where you, right where you just heard that thing, that's when you use the pause function. So that's either this pause button or it's control space on a PC or command space on a Mac. So when I say control space, that means you hold down the control button and then you press the space button. So while first thing you do is you hold down control, and then after you're holding it down, you press the space button once, and that'll do it. Or you can just click this pause button up here. So here's the difference between the two. I'll just show you one more time, play and stop.
Canoe FM.
Brought to you by
Canoe FM.
Brought to you by
And now here's play and pause.
Canoe FM.
Brought to you by 100.9 Canoe FM, community radio from the Haliburton Highlands. Visit.
So that's a handy trick to know when you are doing editing and when something grabs your ear and you think, oh, I need to cut that out. I need to change like that exact part right there. You can hit Control Space or you can click that pause button and it'll stop you exactly on that point. Okay, so that is our play, our record. Well, we know what our record button does once we have tracks record enabled. Then we can just hit record to actually start recording. So prepare for a feedback loop, but here we go. We'll set a record
on this track, and then once we hit record up here, then we can see it actually gets recorded onto this track. And then whenever we're done recording, hit play, you can hit stop, whichever you need.
Unrecord, enable that so we stop hearing the feedback loop, and then we can listen to it.
Record up here, then we can see it actually gets recorded onto this.
And again, stop will take us back to that point, and then pause.
Record up here, then we can see it
will take us to there.
Actually gets recorded onto this track.
Okay. So I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to press backspace to delete it because I don't actually want that there. Let's look at some of the other things that are available to you. So this is the main screen here. This is your counter, so this is the time that you're currently clicked at. So 34 seconds. Let's see if I can click right on 40. 39, so close. 40:06, let's see, around 50. We got close to 50, a little more than a minute, a little more than a minute. You can always press this button to go back to the beginning. You can also press the Enter key on your keyboard to do the same thing. So we're going to go up to View. This is one of the menus that you're probably going to need a lot if you are not a keyboard shortcut kind of person. So there's this thing called the Media Explorer. So this is a really handy thing that lets you do a whole bunch of navigating. So this is all of the files on your computer. So you can see I've got my downloads folder here. So I've got some, let's see, annuals in the fall. I've got one of Pauline's shows right here. So I'm going to drag this in, and you can just click and drag any MP3 or any WAV file. Just drags right in. So that's, I think that might even be the one I just recorded. So I don't actually want that one there, so I'm going to delete that. But I do want this Pauline one in here. So that was great. I got to view, I could drag stuff in from my downloads folder, just exactly what I needed. And now I don't want to see this anymore because I just want to be able to work and I want to be able to edit. And this is taking up a bunch of my screen. So I'm going to go back to View and click on Media Explorer again to hide it. So I'm going to go one more time and do that because anyone who is into keyboard shortcuts might notice that we have an M right here. So M for Media Explorer. If you want to, you have to make sure that you've clicked in the timeline. For some reason, it's a little bit finicky about that. So click anywhere in this gray part over here, really, anywhere you like. And then you can hit the M key on your keyboard, M as in Martha. And that will hide or show the Media Explorer. I guess I should say M as in Media Explorer. And right, if you're not clicked in this gray area, then it'll just try and find an M in your shortcut list. So that's why you want to click there, and that will actually hide or show the Media Explorer. So that is for when you want to drag stuff in and out.